All right, thank you. Good evening, counselors and our guests. It is now 6:38 on Monday, December 21st, and we will call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Counselor Gomez.
Present.
Present. Counselor Whitfield.
Present.
Present. Counselor Davila.
Present.
Present. Counselor Fenton.
Present.
Present. Counselor Curran.
Present.
Present. Counselor Ramos.
Present.
Present. Counselor Walsh.
Present.
Present. Counselor Williams.
Present.
Present. Counselor Allen.
Present.
Present. Counselor Letterman.
Present.
Present. Counselor Edwards.
Present.
Present. Counselor Brown.
Present.
Present. Counselor Hurst.
Sorry, I was muted. Will the counselors and their guests please rise for a moment of silence? Will you please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any reports of committee this evening? Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, I had my first and last marijuana oversight subcommittee meeting. I was joined by members of the subcommittee, Orlando Ramos, and also yourself, President Justin Hurst. Also at the meeting, we were in the presence of Councilor Davila, Councilor Whitfield, and also Councilor Allen. We were joined by one of our former colleague and owner of one of the 4 marijuana dispensaries that were given a special permit, Mr. Tim Rook. He had gave us an update on specific things that were happening with his business and with the state on he had a change in partnership, didn't have a change of location, but wanted to keep us abreast and be proactive on the approach on letting us know and giving the information ahead of time if there's anything that we were to meet in the new year about. I know that he is in the second phase, which is just provisional on and waiting on an onset of making sure that he can open. He doesn't have a set date on when his location will open, but also he did let us know about a cannabis academy that he is working on. So folks that do come in that want to get employed at his establishment could go through a curriculum to learn how the industry works and maneuvers. But for the most part, it was a really great conversation. We're also joined by neighborhood council president from East Springfield with Kathy Brown. And for the most part, it was very good, informative, and great questions. But that is all that I have for marijuana oversight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Are there any other reports of committee?
Council President Hurst.
Councilor Whitfield, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Today we had a finance committee meeting where we reviewed the financial orders that we will be reviewing today. There's one order on the Bay Brownsfield that an amendment will be required just to adjust the location of where the grant will apply to. Other than that, all of the orders except for the 117,000 for, let me see, bills of a prior year. There will be a little bit of discussion around that one. Oh no, that's the budget transfer, but bills of the prior year, 144,000, just to talk about some of the insurance, unemployment insurance that we still have to cover the cost. So there'll be a little bit of discussion around that later in the meeting, but for the most part, it was a smooth meeting. I thank yourself, Councilor Gomez, Councilor Letterman, and I think that was it, for attending. Oh, Councilor Allen, yes. As part of the Finance Committee, Councilor Allen's always there. and Counselor Gomez is part of the Finance Committee as well. So I thank you guys for attending.
Thank you, Counselor Whitfield. Counselor Letterman.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On Wednesday, December 16th, I held a committee meeting of the Sustainability and Environment Committee. We were joined at the meeting by the members of the committee, Councilors Gomez and Counselor Edwards. We're also joined by yourself, Mr. President, and Counselor Whitfield. And we met with the Eversource gas utility side of the company, which has recently taken over operations from Columbia Gas in Massachusetts. The purpose of the meeting was to receive from Eversource an update on their leak repair program in the city and also their plans to upgrade gas infrastructure across our city now that they've taken over operations. They were able to share with us, Mr. President, that since taking over from Columbia Gas, they've continued the accelerated leak repair program that we had previously negotiated with their predecessor, fixing over 100 gas leaks since taking over on October 30th. And they also shared with us that they plan to repair and replace 255,000 feet of outdated cast iron piping over the next 5 years. Actually, in the city of Springfield, they'll be replacing more piping than in any other service territory. So we're looking forward to seeing that work continue. They also reported to us they have 0 super emitters in the city. So the leaks that do exist for the most part are the smallest ones, and they're continuing to upgrade the infrastructure. So we will continue, Mr. President, to work with Eversource as they take over operations here in the city.
Thank you, Counselor Letterman. Are there any other reports of committee? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on accepting all of the reports of committee?
On accepting the reports of committee, Counselor
Mr.
Gomez.
President.
I'm sorry, Counselor Ramos, before we call the roll.
Yep. My apologies, Mr. President. I'm on my phone. I was a little bit slow in raising my hand. The Public Safety Subcommittee met last week to talk about police reform. We unfortunately had to reschedule that meeting because the city solicitor and PERF were both unable to attend. It was actually the snow day. However, I will be scheduling another meeting in the next week or so before the end of the year so we can have an end of the year report for police reforms, what has happened in the year 2020 in terms of reform, and what we expect to happen in the year 2021.
Thank you, Counselor Ramos. If there are no further reports of committee, Madam Clerk, can you please continue to call the roll on all of the reports of committee?
On the reports of committee, Counselor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst.
Yes, the reports of committee are approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the first item on the agenda?
The first item on the agenda is the November Revenue versus Expenditure Report.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Thank you, Mr. President. Patrick Burns, 90 Clement Street, Springfield. Tonight you have the November Revenue versus Expenditure Report. I did want to call your attention under the public safety line, the police department, the education incentive bill known as the Quinn bill was made in the first week in November, and that payment totaled $3,375,000.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments regarding this petition from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on approving this petition?
On accepting the report, Counselor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes, the report is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is the continuation of the special permit hearing for the accessory wall sign at 1500 Main Street.
Thank you. Counselor Letterman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be recusing myself from this hearing and vote as my employer is a tenant at Tower Square.
Thank you, Counselor Letterman. Madam Clerk, can you please note that Counselor Letterman will be recusing himself? Madam Clerk?
Yes, I got it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, have we received any testimony in opposition to this special permit?
I have not seen any opposition yet. No.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions or comments for the petitioner before we close this portion of the hearing? No, we've had extensive discussion at our last meeting. Seeing none, is there any debate amongst the council regarding this special permit? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, this requires a 2/3 roll call vote for passage. Can you please call the roll on approving this special permit?
On approving the special permit at 1500 Main Street. Counselor Gomez?
Yes.
Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman? I'm sorry, recused. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes. Counselor Ramos on the reasons?
Councilor Gomez on the reasons.
I'm sorry, Counselor Gomez on the reasons. My apologies.
I was in confusion. I was like, I got moved. I got fired. No. Sorry. Reasons for the granted permit: the specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, and condition. The use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use. To incorporate the planning staff analysis into the decision at the basis of its findings. Congratulations.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on approving the reasons?
On approving the reasons, Counselor Gomez?
Yes.
Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman recused. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes, the special permit is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call items 3 through 8 on the agenda, please?
Items 3 through 8. Item 3, Brownfield Bay Street Grant in the amount of $250,000. Number 4, Emergency Management Performance Grant. Number 5, FY21 Municipal Road Safety Grant. Item number 6, FY21 Community Foundation Mass. Item number 7, Police Message Archiver Grant. And item number 8, FY21 Shine Grant.
Thank you. Counselor Gomez.
If my recollection is correct, I believe on the The first one, we had to make an amendment on the floor. So I'm not sure if TJ wanted to speak to that a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm going to make the amendment, but I know that there was an amendment that had to be made in the finance meeting.
So yes, we will make that amendment when the time arises. Is there anyone present? I see there's some other counselors in the queue. Before we get to your hands that I see are raised, can we please have someone speak to the grant first?
Thank you, Mr. President. Brian Connors, 274 Springfield Street in Springfield. The grant is for mass development in the amount of $250,000. It is for 846 and 876 Bay Street. As many councilors know, these are some of our most contaminated properties, so this was great news to get for mass development. The funding will be used for assessment for 846 Bay Street and for cleanup to remove some PCBs out of the soil at 876 Bay Street.
Thank you. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm certainly in favor of cleaning this site up. I do have some questions about the current status of the site that I think are relevant to our expending funds on it. During the Finance Committee meeting, and just by coincidence this morning, I was driving up Bay Street and I noticed there was a really large amount of debris on this site. And so I had wanted to know, is that debris ours or who does that debris belong to?
The debris is northern tree debris that is it ours? Northern Tree, based on their city contract for cleaning up wood debris in the city. And that's what the land will be used for.
So Northern Tree collected this debris and placed it on our property at our request?
They have a license agreement to utilize the property.
So what will happen to that debris after? I mean, is the plan for the city to maintain ownership of this property and store debris there?
No, the plan is ultimately to transfer the property to Northern Tree, and that's been approved by City Council to transfer.
Is this the site that also is at the corner of Bay and Tapley? Are these all connected?
Correct. There's
And
four.
didn't we already approve the sale of this property?
We approved the sale of the property, and what happened with it is there was an agreement to go in partnership to deal with the environmental because it's so significant. The city can access funds like these and like EPA funding in order to address the significant environmental conditions before fully turning over all of the risk to Northern Tree.
What's the timeline on the work to be done?
The work under the scope of this grant,
Yes.
I would say within the next 0 to 6 months.
What is the what work has been contracted to be done already?
I mean, we've owned this property, Councilor, for over 10 years. There's been a number of different scopes of services. We're doing testing through an EPA grant on NS Tapley, which is another parcel that's right there. So that's ongoing. We've done some testing on 876, which found the contamination, which we're cleaning up with this grant. So it's a very complex site because of its past use as a junkyard. There's a lot of contaminants, PCBs, petroleum, metals. So there's been a number of scopes, a number of investigations, and this actually gets to cleaning some of that up.
Will any other city funds be expended other than those from this grant?
There aren't any matching funds with this grant.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Allen, followed by Councilor.
Thanks, Mr. President. Yeah, Brian, following along on that, is one of the questions I asked at the Finance Committee was, who will be doing the work with this grant? So is your answer to that Northern Tree?
No, the work is done by licensed site professional Weston Sampson, who's under contract for the parcels.
And so their experience at cleaning up brownfield, a firm that does that?
Correct. And so their scope had to be turned in with this application to Mass Development. Mass Development accepted them, and in fact, it's a condition that they would undertake the activities.
So their scope was included and the grant was given after they read that scope.
Correct.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Allen. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes, I just wanted to make the motion to amend the document to reflect the correct address. Is this the right time, or did you want
Sounds
to wait?
good. We'll take the motion at this time.
Okay. I make a motion to correct, do I just call it the document?
Sounds good.
Okay, the document to reflect that whereas the department intends to use the grant funds for the property located at 846 and 876 Bay Street in order to perform a phase 2 environmental assessment activities.
So a motion has been made by Counselor Whitfield. Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second it.
Second, this motion has been seconded by Counselor Walsh. Is there any discussion on this motion, or do you mind if we vote on this motion, Counselor Letterman, and then you go?
Yeah.
Or is there, okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on this motion, please?
I just have one question.
Yes.
Two addresses, or was it 846 through? I'm sorry, Counselor Whitfield, can you repeat that?
It said 846 and
And.
876, but Brian, you could clarify?
Yes,
it's and.
it's two separate addresses, 846 Bay Street and 876 Bay Street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you?
Order. Counselor Gomez.
Yeah.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst.
Yes, the motion is approved. Counselor Letterman on the grant itself, followed by Counselor Davila.
Just two more questions, Brian. So can you explain to me just slightly more about this license agreement that we have with Northern Tree?
Yep. So they have basically the transfer of the property happens in two stages. So one is it was basically broken up. There's 4 parcels. It was broken up to a 2-parcel sale with an option to purchase the second 2. It's all based on the environmental condition of the property because of the significant concerns there. So in order to, the big benefit for the city in this project is the savings of about $150,000 a year is what Pat Sullivan estimates in wood waste tipping fees. So in order to accelerate that so that they can actually utilize the property, we entered into a license agreement for one parcel, the one parcel that the environmental conditions are in a position where it could accept temporary use of that kind of facility. So ultimately, the property will be transferred to them in ownership is the plan once the environmental conditions are such that the company and the city agree that it's okay to transfer it over. And DEP and EPA, all the regulatory bodies are involved in reviewing this, all 4 parcels.
So I'm going to suggest that in the new year, we hold a subcommittee meeting on this entire project. Because I think there seems to be some continued confusion about this deal and also about the proposed use. I know at first when this came before the city council, it was stated in the hearing on the record that they wanted to use this as a processing, a site for a processing plant, essentially. We were told as a city council that they would need a special permit for that. They then, that decision was reversed later on. So I'm gonna, I suppose, support expending funds to clean up the site because there's no reason not to address the environmental concerns. But I think that the council needs to dig a little deeper about what the ultimate land use is going to be at this site and whether it's properly permitted. And that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Letterman just kind of alluded to my question regarding the licensing fee. And Brian, thank you for your explanation. But I'm still a little confused. So what's the ultimate goal for this property?
In terms of use?
Correct.
So the use is you're starting to see the use. So basically what's happening is the wood waste that is picked up under the city contract by Northern Tree is brought to the site, it's chipped, it's then reused in city parks for mulch. So instead of us paying for it to go to an off-site facility, it's going to this facility, being chipped and reused in city parks.
Okay, now you did mention a tipping fee. When I hear tipping fee, I think of yard waste. And in fact, I think we're spending an extra $1 million a year, if I recall correctly from Chris Signola saying that. Is that what you mean with the tipping fee, or?
Yeah, I mean, what I mean by that, Councilor, is Pat Sullivan has indicated that we will save $150,000 a year in not paying to dispose of this wood waste, but rather reusing it on the site, as I said, and then shipping it. So maybe tipping fee is not the correct term, but it's the waste disposal fee of this wood waste.
So is this property only going to be used for that purpose, or will there be enhanced use as we go along?
I mean, it's been proposed to us that's the use of the property. So, you know, it's a little bit of a condition of how far we get with cleanup. If there's certain pieces of property where they can't operate, then maybe they'll look at different uses. But as far as it's been to this point, it is for this, you know, wood waste chipping back into city parks.
Now, would you be able to speak if they do want to use something else? Would they need a special permit from us?
I suppose it depends on the use. I mean, I can't envision, what other types of uses Northern Tree would get into on that property, but solar is one thing that's been mentioned, only because that's something you can do on a contaminated property like we've seen in Indian Orchard. But beyond that, obviously if it's something that requires a special permit, they'd have to go through that process.
Now, my last question, if I may, have they given any thought about the impact it's going to have with Central High School being so close? Is there any concern or any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I mean, that's always been a concern with that property. We've tried to sell that property, Councilor, 4 or 5 times in the past 10 years. We've had multiple proposals, and the neighborhood has been very protective over the type of reuse. This has been the first time that the neighborhood actually supported the reuse. So there's always a concern of what kind of disruption use might bring on to a neighborhood. And I think what's important here is, as Councilor Letterman said, is getting the property cleaned up, because these contaminants can move. And so that's what what the assessment does and what the cleanup does, is find out where the contaminants are moving to, if they're moving off site. And it's important we get a handle on that as soon as we can. We've had this problem out there for a long time. Now we've got a real opportunity here to address it.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Letterman.
I appreciate your indulgence, Mr. Chairman. I recognize this third time I've spoken on this issue, but I just want to say for the record, because I'm sort of tired of beating around the bush on this issue. During the last hearing, and the reason that I voted against the sale of this land at the time is because, while Northern Tree has indicated that they are going to utilize this to put wood chips back into city parks, they also stated on the record that they may sell these wood chips to wood burning incinerators in the region. And we have a resolution on later relative to our opposition to those types of developments. So I'm very concerned about the premise of the deal, and I'm concerned about how it was presented previously. I'm going to support the environmental cleanup, but it's interesting to see this come back the way that it's coming back, and that we'll be funding this with taxpayer dollars, which certainly the cleanup needs to be funded, but I want to dig more into the future use of the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. If there are no further questions, is there anyone present to speak to item number 4? Please please state your name and address
Yes.
for the record?
This is Robert Hassett. I'm the Director of Emergency Preparedness for the city. I live at 30 Archie Street in Springfield.
Thank you.
So the objective of this grant, of the Emergency Management Performance Grant provided by the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, is to provide a brush fire cache for Springfield firefighters. And what this would do is it provides the tools, hoses, pumps, generators, and associated equipment to fight brush fires in the city. We've seen a 200% increase in the number of brush fires over the last year, probably resulting from the drought conditions we had during the spring and summer. And this will put us in a better position to, number one, put out the fires more quickly, and number two, keep the firefighters protected while they're doing their job.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments regarding this grant from the council? Seeing none, Councilor Brown.
I just want to quickly thank the firefighters for all they do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. If there are no further questions or comments from the council, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on approving grants 3 through 8 together?
On approving grants 3 through 8 together, Counselor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh.
yes,
Yes. Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst.
Yes, the grants are approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda, item number 9, is an order authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with UMass Medical School.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone present to speak to this item? Councilor Letterman.
Mr. Chairman, I've never had to recuse myself so many times in a meeting because of my employment with the university. However, I'm going to recuse myself from this item because I am employed by the University of Massachusetts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Madam Clerk, can we please note that Councilor Letterman is recusing himself from this item? Is there anyone present to speak to this item? Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Mr. President, TJ Plant, Capo, 42 Garfield Street. This is a contract we have with UMass Medical Center to do our Medicaid billing for the students of the Springfield Public Schools. It is required to have a city council vote on the contract. We're looking for you guys to authorize us to extend the contract at least a year, if not 2 more.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Councilor Brown?
Yes, I just had a quick question, Mr. President. Do I have to recuse myself being an alumni of UMass?
I'll defer to the clerk or to the Attorney Moore. Attorney Moore, why don't you answer that question?
Yeah, I think that generally speaking, if there's no financial interest involved, there's no family or personal interest there, that you're perfectly safe. That's a good question, but I think being an alumni, you're able to still make an objective decision. So I think you're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Thank you, Attorney Moore. Councilor Fenton?
Thank you, Mr. President. I trust Councilor Brown can be objective despite his allegiance to the Minutemen. It's not a question. I just want to point it out. TJ, the insurance coverage under this is 1 million, 2 million per incident, and then in aggregate. So I think it's a great partnership, but I would just ask that maybe you sync up with the school department post tonight and talk with them about that insurance provision. It just seems terribly low to me. That's all.
Sounds good, Counselor. I started a conversation with the CFO of the school department, and we will gladly look into this and see what makes more sense for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, this requires a roll call majority vote for passage. And again, councilors, we will suspend Rule 19 on all of these items at the end, all in one vote. Can you please call the roll, Madam Clerk?
On approving item number 9, Counselor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila.
The point of clarification, Madam Clerk, before I vote, we only voted on item 9, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton.
Minutemen refuse to lose. Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh. Counselor Walsh. Absent. Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman recused. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst.
Yes. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is number 10, bills of prior year for various departments.
Is there anyone present to speak to this item?
Mr. President, TJ Plant CAFO. This is a bill of a prior year. We're asking for authorization from the city council to pay older bills using current existing money. The big ones for this one is actually unemployment for about 135,000 or so. That caught up to us through our vendor. The explanation we received is that this is due to COVID and people filing for unemployment that were seasonal workers that we did not hire back for the season because we were in a hiring freeze. And if they did not find another job, they were able to file for unemployment, and the city was going to have to pay our share of it. We are currently looking into all the claims to make sure that they are legitimate and that there's no fraud going on or any other issues. But this is asking for authorization to pay it because we're working with the state. If there's any fraud, that we will be reimbursed by the state.
Thank you, TJ. Are there any questions or comments from the council regarding this order? Councilor Davila.
Apologies, I was muted there. Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, TJ. Good to see you. I see that you said that this is for unemployment, but I'm looking here so that I get clarity on page 78, 79, and going forward. Those are the list of the people that collected unemployment and the amount they were allocated?
The amount that the city is required to contribute to unemployment insurance to pay for the unemployment claims filed by former city employees.
Is that amount monthly or just one-time payment?
It's monthly, 26,000 for the month of April, 49,000 for the month of May, and 63,000 for the month of June.
And that amount is incorporated in the total 144,000 and some change?
Aside from $5,755 for the Republican services for
Right.
newspaper for the city council and Springfield College for $350, everything else is for unemployment.
Now, are we on the hook for more unemployment for these individuals, or what's going to happen to them?
So we have the appropriation set up for FY21, so we don't have an issue there. But we continue to monitor unemployment claims to make sure that they're not growing at a rate that is unsustainable or that's questionable.
And you say you're going to be reviewing everything just to make sure that everything's legit and there's no fraud, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you, TJ. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Are there any further questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on this order?
On approving order number 10, Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is number 11, budget transfer within a department.
Is there anyone present to speak to this item?
Good evening, councilors. Helen Carlton Harris, Commissioner, Division of Health and Human Services, 47 Overlook Drive, Springfield, Massachusetts. As the council will recall, as a part of your wonderful work, you allocated $250,000 to the Department of Health and Human Services for the purposes of creating the Office of Racial Equity and 2 outreach positions that we're going to do work around gang suppression. As a part of a deliberative conversation and process, some of which happened with City Councilor Tracy Whitfield, we have made a decision not to hire 2 positions for the department, but rather to subcontract the work to an entity, the Mission Incorporated, who is currently doing outreach work and working tirelessly around gang suppression. And so our concern is having department employees who are going to need to work constantly and in the evenings and perhaps put themselves in risky situations that we felt would not be a workable outcome. So what we are asking is that we transfer the money from the personal services line item where it was placed to hire the 2 workers into personal services so that we can have a contract with the mission so that they will do the work that was going to be done by city employees. And that work is to identify, intervene, and interrupt the cycle of street level violence, to work as a member of a team to ensure that violent crime is reduced, to serve as a linkage and support for individuals to enhance their awareness of job, education, substance treatment opportunities in collaboration with community-based organizations, to participate as necessary in organized responses to shootings and increasing visibility when shootings, killings take place, developing networks with other outreach programs, provide intervention outreach services, and work in coordination when appropriate with law enforcement and other service providers, and to coordinate efforts to strategically meet the intervention and prevention needs of African Americans, Latinos, Asian, Native American, and refugee community using a prevention and intervention framework. So that is what I am asking, is that we transfer the money so we can subcontract with the mission. In addition, there is money there because my department is at 311 State Street. We need to expand to the 3rd floor. Our contact tracing and our staffing need additional technology as well as additional space to be able to perform their duties. And so we are asking, a small portion of that money is for the expansion of the site at 311 State Street. Be happy to answer any questions, Mr. President.
Excuse me. Thank you, Commissioner. Councilor Brown, I see your hand is raised in the queue. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. One of my favorite people. I was just curious, Ms. Carlton, is that the organization with Brother Johnny?
Yes, sir. Yes, Councilor Brown. It is. Brother Johnny is the CEO. Is the CEO of the mission.
Okay. I don't know. The mic is mess. I've seen Brother Johnny and the things that different events and the security that he's done throughout the community, throughout the years. I've seen how he de-escalated situations. These are the type of programs and organizations that I think people really don't use. It's an excellent choice. I don't think the only thing I have an issue with is that it isn't, we need to fund them a little more but because of the impact that they actually do have in the community. Because there's a lot of things that they also offer that's preventative, and that also the mental health aspects that a lot of Blacks and brown people go through from day-to-day life. So a great selection. I know that he's working, we're trying to work with him on the state level, but he's an organization that we definitely need to get a little bit more funding and support a little bit more, because he definitely has his, the different people on the boots right there on the streets. So I commend you guys on your selection. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Gomez, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
I just had a question. I think there was a press release that was released about somebody being employed. I think it was, I forget her, I know her first name, Chris Mary. Is that part of the same kind of department? I know she used to be in charge of the gambling department. What I mean is the resolution with finding help with gambling. But I just wanted to clarify, is this the same network where the funding you're asking to move from one to the other, Madam Commissioner?
The funding for Chris Mary Gonzalez's position, who is the Racial and Health Equity Coordinator, that funding is still in the personnel line item. So this funding I'm asking to move does not impact her work. If you asking, is the work related? Will they have a relationship? I would say absolutely. There will be a relationship. However, the work is different in terms of the boots on the ground outreach in the community. Chris Mary will be looking at racial equity through a public health lens, and that will be more looking at the social determinants of health, housing, all of those entities, housing, jobs, those kinds of things that will look at a healthy outcome for individuals as well as health disparities. So there is a relationship, Counselor, but this funding is not related because it's in two different places in the budget, and Chris Mary's funding is still in the personnel line item.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for your answer, ma'am. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez, Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioner, for the kudos that you gave. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the administration for taking the time to listen on the importance of combating the gun violence, and you were there at that meeting along with others. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. But my question is, how much is going to the office work and how much is going to the contract?
Well, right now, the work, Brother Johnny and the mission is really doing the work now. And so the contract itself will started on October the 1st. It will go until June 30th. I anticipate the contract will be somewhere around initially $70,000. That will be for that portion of the fiscal year. I also anticipate that if all goes well as far as the work is concerned, and I expect that it will, there is a reporting mechanism that we will have in terms of data gathering to assess the outcomes of the work. When I come back on July 1st, the contract will be for $100,000, but I anticipate the initial contract for $70,000.
Thank you, Commissioner, because I did want to say that while we got the money transferred from the budget police department to the Office of Racial Justice, and we are transferring this money for the contract, it's really just not enough. We need more funding to combat this gun violence in the city of Springfield. So there will be more meetings coming up on how we can accomplish that together. But I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate the hiring of the new director. And I appreciate you working hard to get a contract going immediately to start the outreach efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me thank you because you brought Brother True to us. And that really began the thinking around how can we do this work effectively, efficiently, and use members of the community. So thank you for that as well.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Commissioners. Good to see you. First, let me tell you that I'm extremely excited that this project's moving forward. As I've stated publicly many times before, in Springfield, we have a lot of gun violence, and unfortunately, we have, in any given year, we have between 12 to 18 murders a year, and that is extremely problematic. I'm excited that this is going to start, it is my hope, to address and reduce some of these ongoing chronic problem that we have, health problems. I will argue to you, a health crisis here in the city in terms of gun violence. But I do have some quick questions. So we're going to transfer, you asking for 144,000. And Brother Johnny, by the way, excellent choice, great man. A lot of experience, a lot of wisdom and knowledge. Is that 144 including the expenses already incurred since October?
The amount in the budget should be 117, Counselor. And so the
yes, yeah, 117, correct.
Okay, so that would be for the contract and also to expand the offices at the Department of Health and Human Services. That is what, that's the two areas that the funding is being requested for.
Right, but the 117 includes the expenses starting in October, or is this going forward?
It is including the expenses starting October. It is October 1 to June 30th.
Oh, got it. Okay. Now, Commissioner, you did say that two positions within the racial equity office are not being funded, correct?
That's correct.
And that's a saving measure so that we can fund Mission Inc.
That's correct. In looking at the data and looking at the work products, it's more, we felt that it was more efficient to do it with this subcontracted relationship
Right.
with individuals who already have community knowledge and relationships.
Right. And now, how many people, how many staff do we have at the new Office of Racial Equity?
The Office of Racial Equity at this point only has one coordinator at this point. Certainly, as we start to think about how we're going to do this work in the city and those relationships and partnerships, that could potentially expand. But right now, for that office, there is one coordinator, and then there is the contract with the mission that will expand the outreach efforts related to race, or racial equity, as well as violence, which you know is a public health issue.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, my last question, Commissioner. Mission Inc., how many case workers, how many outreach workers will they be able to provide? How many boots on the ground?
Currently, I believe that there are at least 4 individuals that are working on the team. I do not have the specific demographic information about those individuals. I know that Brother Johnny would be more than happy to have this conversation, but we did talk about the fact that with doing a subcontract, we can fund more individuals than we could with the 2 city workers, because we'd have to pay fringe and all of what goes along with employment. So I believe there are a minimum currently of 4. There may be more that I'm just not aware of at this point.
Commissioner, just to finish, my compliments to you, my compliments to Brother Johnny. This is a great program. I'm excited to see it up and running. And just one life that we save is a good worth investment. So my compliments, and I will be supporting this this order. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Gomez. Councilor Gomez, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I asked my question, it's more of a comment. I just wanted to state that through the years, for a very long time, I have been on the boots and I have had my boots on the ground. It never was an organization in the beginning, but people that just cared about young people and their young brothers' lives. Working with MOS 13 and the Vanguard unit and the Vanguard organization with Jafet Robles, and with Brother True, a long time ago, we were able to bring brothers together and young people together to create treaties across the city, all the way that went from Hartford to Holyoke. I think this Mission Inc. is going to be exemplary. It's going to be something that, you know, we were doing for free. We were doing it out of the love for the places that we came from in our community. And I think the most important part is that it might be just $117,000, but I can only imagine when really when individuals that really know what's going on the grassroots level are really getting the opportunity to really get out there and really do the work that a lot of people out there are doing for free. This right here just shows with community engagement, with in government as well, bringing people to the table. I want to thank all my colleagues on the city council, because for a very long time, it was very hard for me, even being on the city council, to get any kind of traction. So I want to tip my hat off to the ones that got the traction moving. But for the most part, I want to say, Commissioner Colton Harris, that, you know, this is something that, you know, one that I've been working on for a past decade for free. And to see this moment happen today is a very special day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. If there are no further questions or comments from the council, Madam Clerk, this requires a majority roll call vote for passage. Can you please call the roll?
On approving item number 11, Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Councilor Davila.
My apologies. Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst.
Yes. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is number 12, an order authorizing a quitclaim deed for West Side of Wilbraham Avenue.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone present to speak to this item? Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brian Connors, 274 Springfield Street in Springfield. The item before you is the result of a request for proposals for a 3-parcel lot that is sandwiched between Wilbraham and Waltham Avenue, next to the Knox building, or a little further south of the Knox building. The property, we had one bidder, First Resource Development Company, for $11,000 for the parcels. They will be utilized for parking to support the planned redevelopment of the historic Knox building. I think, as the council knows, First Resource is planning an over $50 million renovation of the Knox building and an adjacent property. Knox building being extremely important historic building in the city, was on the state historic most endangered list, as well as the Springfield Preservation Trust. So we're excited about the project. This helps support their parking needs, which, if you've been down Waltham Avenue next to the Knox building, you know how tight that street is and how challenged they will be for parking. I do have with me tonight Gordon Pulsiver and his team from First Resource. If any of the councilors have any questions about the overall project or about his recently completed project nearby at the Mason Square Fire Station and Indian Motorcycle.
Thank you, Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brian, a quick question. What's the actual address?
The actual address, That's a good question, Counselor, because it may actually be, because it was city-owned, we may have lost the street number on the address.
So is,
You're muted, Counselor Davila. I think you accidentally muted
So it's,
yourself.
they're known as West Side Wilbraham Avenue.
you know, the reason I ask is I doing my due diligence, that doesn't appear on the map anywhere. And if my recollection serves me correctly, is that the corner by college, by Springfield College? Give me a quick second, please, if you could. Sorry, Mr. President, I'm trying to just locate where this is. Is this the, is that the corner between Wilbraham and King Street?
No, it's Wilbraham and Waltham. So Waltham ends and it takes a turn right into Wilbraham.
Waltham
So if
Avenue, okay.
Yeah, so it's the lots right where Wilbraham turns into Waltham.
Okay,
Kind of near Southampton Street, but closer to where the curve is on Waltham that goes into Wilbraham.
Okay, all right, because somehow I thought that might have been a gas station in the past, but I don't think that's feasible possible.
No, I think I know the one you're talking about on King Street. It's not that parcel.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, all right, that was my clarifying question. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Davila, Councilor Letterman, followed by Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just simply wanted to speak in support of the order. Wanted to thank Mr. Pulsifer and his team for the work they're continuing to do. The entire area is really coming alive, and to see these historic buildings, especially the Mason Square Fire Station now, and now the Knox building, continuing to be brought back, and for housing, which is something that we know is greatly needed, especially now in our community. It's great to see, and we're seeing spinoff up in the square from it already as well. If you look at folks like Level 5 restaurant that's opened up over there, that other plaza directly adjacent. I think that we're going to continue to see that spinoff from individuals being able to come in and live in these really historic buildings. So just wanted to make that comment. I drive by almost every day, and looking forward to when we might safely be able to get in there and take a look at some of the work ourselves.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman, Councilor Walsh, followed by Councilor Allen.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I unmuted myself. Well, along the lines of what my colleague, Councilor Letterman, just said, I'm happy to support it. As a matter of fact, whenever I see Gordon Pulsifer's name attached to something that's going on in the city, I know it's going to be a good project. Now, was the first one you did down in the South End, Gordon, or had you done another one before?
No, Maple Commons.
Maple Commons. So you've all throughout the city in all different pockets, you've really done a lot for safety and for housing, and I wish you success, and thank you for keep investing in Springfield.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh, Councilor Allen, followed by Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Mr. President. Yeah, I was wondering if we could just have Gordon Pulsifer just give us a little quick summary of the project at Mason Square, what this is going to do for it, and what the status of the current project is.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Mr. Pulsifer, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Certainly. Good evening. Good evening, councilors. Gordon Pulsifer, First Resource Development, 2001 Washington Street, Hanover, Mass. Many of you are familiar with the Indian Motorcycle Project. We're just wrapping up now. And it's been our plan for a year now to transition across the street to the Knox Automobile Building. The Knox Automobile Building has been vacant for many years. It's actually 3 connected buildings, 2 of which we have under site control, which we are calling Knox Residences 1 and Knox Residence 2. The third portion is owned by a company called Lesteron, which is an active business on the third portion of this property. This property offers a lot of challenges. One, it's a very narrow site. So in order to renovate it, the source of financing will come from affordable housing resources with the state of Massachusetts. We've needed to piece together parking requirements down Waltham Ave, and this parcel that Brian has brought to you tonight is one owned by the city that we need for the second building, Knox 2, which will provide 39 parking spaces. We're also building a small office and maintenance building on the property. We will be before the councilors at the end of January to ask for a special permit on for Knox 1 and Knox 2 to build 55 apartments in Knox 1 and 41 apartments in Knox 2. And also adding the 100 plus parking spaces that are needed along Waltham Ave, as well as the site that the buildings sit on. Now, Wilbraham Ave turns into a dead-end street. Many of you may be familiar with the fact the city's building a park at the end of the street. And Councilor Walsh, you brought up the south end. You may recall Outing Park that was built there as we're developing and redeveloping abandoned buildings in that neighborhood. This park's going to provide a cohesive neighborhood. This will no longer be a cut-through street. And I think you'll see the neighborhood develop and also connect the Indian motorcycle. We have just put in service 199 units at Indian Motorcycle, 100% occupied. We held a housing auction this summer. We had 60 apartments available at that time. 600 plus applicants showed up. There's such a need for housing in this neighborhood, and we're just really excited about it. And it's right on top of us, and it's just falling down. And I sit on the Preservation Massachusetts board in Boston, and this building, as Brian mentioned, is on the endangered building list in the state of Massachusetts. It's one of the most historic buildings I've ever worked on. It was where the first gas-powered engines were manufactured in the city of Springfield. The first engine they made went in a fire truck. The fire truck went across the street to Mason Square Firehouse. There's so much history in the Mason Square, Winchester Historic District, that we're just really excited to work on this project. And I look forward to coming back before the councilors at the end of January and asking you to approve a special permit so we can get the funding and get started.
Thank you, Mr. Pulsifer. Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Yes, I want to say hello to Gordon and thank you. I went the Indian Motorcycle building and the playground is coming along really well. That was a really, really great touch. It's beautiful over there. I think a lot of people don't understand the commitment that you have. It was very difficult when there was a displacement over in Puerto Rico, as far as me and my job for the state working with Bud Williams, finding housing, affordable housing. You know, it was really my mission, our mission, to say we're gonna find housing. We have to find housing. And I know that has been a commitment of yours, and you've held fast to it. And not only have you held fast to it, the quality that you're bringing into our district, I commend you. I know a lot of people and a lot of constituents of mine, they want to move into these buildings. They want to get into them. I've been working with the mayor and the state as far as with the park, so I understand even a lot of that area over there. it's going to look like Wonderland once everything is done. So I do commend you and the work and the redevelopment that you do bringing affordable housing in my area. And if I can ask, Gordon, can I get a computer room? They said don't ask. Can we get a computer room in the motorcycle building too?
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Pulsifer, I too want to just commend you on the great job that you're doing in the Mason Square community. I'm definitely going to support this, but I do have a couple questions. I think I asked you before about your security and the cameras over on the building on State Street.
Mhm.
And are your cameras actively working now?
Yes, they are. We're very excited. We went live this fall. There's cameras on every inch of Mason Square, inside and out. We also have a video intercom system at every entrance, so nobody can be buzzed in without being seen in an apartment. And so we've had no issues to date on security at this point, and we were so happy to go live. It's something we've waited for 8 years now, Counselor, and it's so much easier to manage when our residents are safe.
Absolutely. So I thank you for that. I also want to say thank you for the light that you put on State Street, because my niece was hit right there because of the traffic switching lanes. One car was letting her go and the other car swerved around and hit her. And so that light makes a big difference. So I asked about the camera because there's been some people disrupting some of the vehicles and the building across the street at MLK. And so I just wanted to see if your cameras have access to that parking lot at the community center across on Rutland Street.
It may. I'd have to check.
Okay. So I will reach out to you offline about that, but definitely great work. And my final question though, during the construction phase, did you meet the responsible employer ordinance goals as far as hiring minorities and residents and things like that?
Our minority goals were exceeded. We were above 40%.
Well, I guess that answers that. So thank you again. And you definitely have my support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield, Councilor Ramos, followed by Councilor Williams.
Mr. President, I want to thank Councilor Whitfield for asking the question. That's exactly where I was going. First of all, I want to thank and acknowledge Mr. Pulsifer for his continued investment and belief in the city of Springfield, for providing a very important service to the people of our city, and for just your investment and your belief in our city. You've met your commitment to hiring minorities and residents of the city of Springfield to work on these major projects. But it's also important to make sure, not just providing jobs for people, but making sure that they're being paid livable wages and they're not being taken advantage of. The construction industry is notorious for these bad actors who take advantage of people and not pay them what they're supposed to be paid. So I just want to make sure that moving forward and that you also have that commitment to hire and to employ responsible employers that are going to pay people what they're supposed to be paying them, and making sure that people are being taken care of on these jobs.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Councilor Williams, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Gordon, it's always good to see you. I also want to echo much of what Councilor Brown mentioned, but also allude to a point that Councilor Whitfield had. And first, the project itself, from beginning to end, and you're not at the end yet, has been just astonishing to see in real time that transformation take place. And just in regards to the crosswalk, Gordon, I've driven past that many times thus far, and we all know that it's going to take folks some muscle memory to actually know that there is now a crosswalk there, and to kind of adhere to the law there. So I just want to, if at some point, perhaps, in the new year, if we can kind of just maybe address maybe ways to alleviate the concern around folks getting hit. Because I've seen people just fly by that light, not realizing that it's there, or not seeing the light flashing or what have you. But it would be great to just address that at some point in time. That's all I wanted to mention as a nod to this project. I know it's not necessarily related, but it's all kind of in conjunction. So just wanted to share that bit.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick comment to Mr. Pulsipher. If this project is going to be like the other ones you've done, this is going to be good. Particularly, I want to commend you and acknowledge the motorcycle building, the new lighting system, and our work in the wee hours of the night. And I have to say that area is well lit. Clean, and it feels safe. And so I just want to say thank you for that. Good job there. And again, I'm excited to see what the Nuggets build is going to look like. And to echo one of the words that one of my colleagues used, I believe might have been Councilor Williams, the transformation that is occurring. So my compliments to you, sir, and I will be gladly supporting this order. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. If there are no further questions or comments from the council, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on this order? This requires a 2/3 roll call vote for passage.
Accepting item on approving the order for item number 12, Council Gomez. Council Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Council Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Council Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Council Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Council Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Council Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Council Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Council Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Council Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Council Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Council Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Council Brown.
Yeah.
Yes. Council Hurst.
Yes. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll? We'll actually take two separate votes on suspending Rule 19, being that Councilor Letterman did recuse himself on Rule 19, so we can do so. He did recuse himself on the first order. So if we could take a roll call vote on suspending Rule 19 for item number 9, and then we'll take a roll call vote for 10 through 12.
On suspending Rule 19 for item number 9, Council Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Council Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Council Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Council Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Council Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Council Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Council Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Council Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Council Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Council Letterman. Recused. Council Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Council Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Council Hurst.
Yes, the order is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on suspending Rule 19 for items 10 through 12?
On suspending Rule 19 for items 10 through 12, Council Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Council Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Council Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Council Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Council Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Council Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Council Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Council Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Council Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Council Letterman.
Yeah.
Yes. Council Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Council Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes, the orders are approved. Madam Clerk, is there any action to be taken on item number 13?
There's no action to be taken on item number 13.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is item number 14. It's the military leave ordinance. It's on first, second, and third step.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone present to speak to this ordinance? Counselor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr.
Floor is
President.
yours.
I think the best thing we could do, we've discussed it already, is to pass it right now, both steps.
Thank you, Counselor Walsh. If there are no further questions or comments regarding this ordinance from the council, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on invoking Rule 22C to take this or to pass this ordinance in one sitting?
On invoking Rule 22C, Counselor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Karen.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst.
Yes, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on approving this ordinance?
On approving the ordinance, Counselor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Karen.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst.
Yes, the ordinance is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is a resolution in opposition to state subsidies and incentives for biomass plants.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Without objection from the council, we will take item number 15. Is there anyone present to speak to this result? Counselor Letterman.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you to our colleagues for indulging this resolution under suspension. Certainly, the resolution would have been filed on time. However, we weren't made aware of the regulations being issued that this resolution pertains to until the end of the day on Thursday. And that is really one of the reasons that the resolution is on the agenda here before the body this evening, with this being our final meeting before the new year. There is some time sensitivity to this matter. Members, what's before you is a resolution in opposition to a set of final draft regulations that have been issued by the Department of Energy Resources of the Commonwealth under the Baker administration. And what those revisions to what is known as the Renewable Portfolio Standard really serve to do is grant millions of dollars in subsidies and incentives to wood-fired biomass power plants across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. However, it's worth noting that the only incinerator of that nature is proposed here in the city of Springfield. And so these regulations are really of special consequence to those of us on this body and to our constituents. Certainly, this has been a long-standing and somewhat complicated issue that dates back a decade. But what is sort of at the basis of this is that members of this body have continually lobbied the state legislature and the Baker administration to what we would say is stick to the science. We know that wood burning biomass power plants are more polluting than coal power plants. That was proven in a study that was commissioned by the state at the urging of many people on this body and many residents of the city in 2012. And so there is some real concern around why at this time the state would choose to weaken those regulations. And that is why the resolution has been brought forward by myself, along with President Hurst, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Fenton, Councilor Gomez, Councilor Allen, and Councilor Ramos. And we certainly welcome all of our colleagues to join us in calling for the following. And I think that the easiest way to probably explain the rest of it is simply to read the resolution into the record, as I think it covers a lot of what is going on here. So if you'll indulge me briefly. Whereas the Springfield City Council is committed to ensuring and safeguarding the health, safety, and environment of the residents of Springfield, Massachusetts, and whereas the Springfield City Council is supportive of statewide efforts to transition to renewable energy sources that are less polluting, more efficient, and safer for all of our communities, and whereas the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, through its legislative representatives, executive offices, and agencies, and governor, are responsible for the planning and executing of such efforts to transition to renewable energy production, including through state subsidies, tax credits, and incentives, which are ultimately funded by the taxpayers and ratepayers of the Commonwealth. And whereas wood-burning biomass incinerating power plants are a highly polluting form of energy generation that is known to release pollutants including fine particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide. And whereas a 2012 study by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, known as the Manomat study, determined that wood-burning power plants are more polluting than fossil fuel power plants. And whereas, as a result of these determinations, proposed large-scale biomass incinerators in Massachusetts have been ineligible for state subsidies. And whereas recent efforts in both the Massachusetts legislature and by the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources indicate that new subsidies and incentives for large-scale biomass incinerating power plants are on the verge of being granted for the first time, as evident by legislation passed by the House of Representatives and in the recently released Renewable Portfolio Standard by the Department of Energy Resources. And whereas members of the Springfield City Council have opposed these efforts, with 8 councilors submitting comments to the Department of Energy Resources in June of 2019 in opposition to their efforts to weaken standards for biomass and the Renewable Portfolio Standard, and 10 councilors submitting a letter to the Massachusetts Conference Committee on Climate Legislation in August of 2020 in opposition to the inclusion of biomass incentives in forthcoming legislation. And whereas in November of 2020, the Springfield City Council received a resolution from the Springfield Public Health Council in opposition to the legislature's considering of tax credits for biomass incinerators in the Commonwealth, stating, quote, "The potential adverse health consequences to our extremely vulnerable population are enormous," end quote. And whereas cities like Springfield have been historically targeted by polluting industries, resulting in a concentration of pollution for generations that has led to longstanding public impacts, including record-setting rates of asthma and other respiratory illnesses. And whereas the proposals being considered by the Massachusetts DOER and the Massachusetts legislature would wrongly incentivize and directly subsidize the construction of such incinerators in cities like Springfield under the false premise that they are renewable forms of energy production. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Springfield City Council opposes any state subsidies or incentives for commercial biomass incinerating power plants in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and be it further resolved that the Springfield City Council calls upon the Massachusetts DOER, Governor Charlie Baker, and DOER Commissioner Patrick Woodcock to revise their proposed final regulations to CMR 225-14 for the Renewable Portfolio Standard and return the standard to its previous science-based language. And be it further resolved that the Springfield City Council calls upon the Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy Committee of the Massachusetts Legislature to hold an accessible public hearing on the recently passed CMR 225-14 Renewable Portfolio Standard regulations. And be it further resolved that the Springfield City Council calls upon the Massachusetts Legislature to remove any subsidies or incentives for biomass incineration from their forthcoming climate legislation. And be it further resolved that the Springfield City Council urges the Springfield Legislative Delegation to file legislation in the forthcoming session of the Massachusetts General Court to remove and bar taxpayer and ratepayer incentives for commercial biomass incineration in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And be it finally resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to State Senators Eric Lesser, James Welch, and State Senator-elect Adam Gomez, State Representatives Angelo Pupolo, Bud Williams, Carlos Gonzalez, Michael Finn, Thomas Petrolotti, Jose Tosado, and Representatives-elect Orlando Ramos and Jake Oliveira, as well as Governor Charles Baker and DOER Commissioner Patrick Woodcock. So I thank the council for indulging me. It is a complicated issue, but one that I've been very glad to stand with you all on. And essentially, I think we've made clear as a council that the days of potential polluters being rubber stamped in cities like ours are over. We're going to have to keep fighting because obviously some in this state seem to still believe that we can fund these sorts of things with taxpayer money. We need to tell them no, and I hope you'll join us in doing so.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman, Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Williams.
Yes, I want to thank you, Mr. President. I want to commend my colleague, Councilor Letterman. I'd like to be added to the resolution. This is something that I work on as part of my job daily. This biomass is a monster that we thought we put to bed a long time ago. And just through my studies, I believe that there are people who put this legislation into play in order to benefit. These are the people who are to me the boogeymen. I know our constituents vote us in to fight these guys. It's going to affect my area, Ward 4. It's definitely going to affect Ward 4. We thought this thing was put to bed. Somehow this legislation changes things. So my colleague, Councilor Letterman, is correct. This is something, we should really hurry up and do, and we should urge everyone to really call everyone in the state house, everywhere, because this is something that is very, very serious, and it's going to affect a lot of us. So I do commend my colleague, Councilor Letterman, and I just would just urge everyone to just tell all the constituents, tell everyone to call, because this is something that isn't right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Williams, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank Councilor Letterman. I know you've been leading on this issue for quite some time now, and the asthmatic rate in Springfield alone is outrageous, and it's sad to think that we don't have stronger forces outside of the council sometimes, fighting these incinerators coming to town. It's sad to see that for sure. As someone, me and my brother had it worse growing up with asthma to the point where he had to get a shot every single day. I definitely say thank you for your efforts around trying to, of course, eliminate that or at least reduce it in our area so the kids, around our way are not going to be affected by this pollution in the air or potential pollution in the air. So again, thank you for your efforts on this, and please add me as a co-sponsor in this resolution as well.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank my colleague, Councilor Letterman, for all the hard work that he put behind this initiative and all green initiatives. You are the master of them all. You know what you're talking about. You do your research. You write the letters. You fight and you lobby for what's right. I just wanted to point out that is it CO2, Councilor Letterman, that is generated from burning this wood increases the asthma rates in cities and communities. We are a low-income community, and already 1 in 5 children in our city suffer from asthma, and this will just increase over time if we allow biomass plants to exist and emit these fumes into the air. We need to be inhaling neutral carbon air, and we need to be living free of these toxins, and we need to fight for our community. So Councilor Letterman, thank you so much for always fighting for what's right in the community and doing right by our community. And please, please add me as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Whitfield. Madam Clerk, can we please add Counselor Brown as well as Counselor Whitfield as co-sponsors on this resolve? Counselor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief as most of my colleagues have summed up the issue very eloquently. But I do have to say, sir, that with Springfield being the asthma capital, it's really beyond me even to think that this issue is coming back. Environmental protection is one of the biggest issues that we face. It's an issue in which I think down the road, children and people at the time will ask, what did we do to protect the environment for them so that we can leave them a better world, a better community, a cleaner community with cleaner air. So I'm very glad to join this, and I asked to be joined as a co-sponsor to this resolution. And again, my compliments to Councilor Letterman for leading this charge, for leading on this issue. For this is one of the biggest issues that we face as a community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor Davila. Madam Clerk, can we please add Counselor Davila as a co-sponsor to this resolve? Counselor Allen, followed by Counselor Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple words to say that it's encouraging to hear people join on this, because few of us, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Fenton, Councilor Walsh, myself, we've been on this since we revoked the permit in May of 2011. And it keeps coming back. Councilor Edwards, Councilor Allen, or excuse me, Fenton and Letterman and I meet periodically. Councilor Letterman has clearly taken the lead, but this needs to be fought on many different levels, including the building permit level, which is another whole front that was not being talked about tonight. So thank you for joining, because we thought we had put it to bed. We won a couple battles, we lost a few battles. It went quiet, and it's not quiet anymore. And we need to be just as strong as we were 10 years ago. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Allen. Counselor Gomez, followed by Counselor Fenton.
Thank you so much. I just briefly wanted to say first and foremost, I want to thank my colleagues that are still serving and also the colleagues from the past that are no longer here on this body. And then for the colleagues that are here now that are standing up for justice, environmental justice. I really do, look forward to, one, being a steward of great purpose, specifically when it comes to this issue. Lastly, I really want to thank the community. I want to thank the Regional Climate Justice Coalition and all the organizations that are affiliated to it that keep this conversation alive, that are out there, working with our health professionals and also, us as elected officials. We do make the right votes, and we're staying on task. Like you heard Councilor Allen state, we've been fighting this since 2011. Me as a young organizer, now to the point of being able to fight this on the state legislature. These things sometimes don't happen overnight. It's a long haul, and I think this body knows what it is to fight and to show that the people of Springfield come first, and specifically when it comes to their health. So thank you for this moment, and thank you for putting this forward, Councilor Letterman, and I look forward to working on this in my new capacity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Counselor Gomez, Counselor Walsh, Counselor Fenton, followed by Counselor Walsh.
I'll yield to Counselor Walsh.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Counselor Walsh, followed by
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. I know you talked about the Minutemen before, but don't forget the Friars beat Seton Hall yesterday. So we got to say, go Friars.
You know where my allegiances lie.
I sure do. Yes, my children have had and still do have serious problems with asthma. I kind of think you should say all counselors on this. So I'm adding myself, but I think it sounds like all counselors to me. So good project.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Walsh. Madam Clerk, if you could please add Counselor Walsh as a co-sponsor, that would be greatly appreciated. Counselor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I'm listening to everybody speak here, I'm thinking a little bit about all the history that the city has had with this type of project. And it seems to me, you know what came into my mind? I thought, I've seen a lot of Netflix documentaries lately. This would be a great Netflix documentary for somebody to look at how this thing started, where it's been, and where we are today. I mean, the story is just captivating. Don't worry, I'm not going to relitigate it and tell the whole story. But I do want to just tell one of the first interactions that I had on this subject. And that was at the former location of the Pine Point Community Council office on, is that Bay or is that Berkshire? I think that's Berkshire. Berkshire. I'm Berkshire. And I met I don't know, probably 14-year-old Jesse Letterman, who had a papier mâché inhaler that from time to time I ask him to dust off and see where the heck that thing is for the Climate Justice Coalition or whatever the appropriate acronym is. And it was the process that unfolded in the community outreach. I know, Jesse at the time had a bunch of great mentors that got him involved. Michael Ann Busey, God rest her soul, Keith Wright, who was a former colleague of ours. And this is a great example of community activism and people paying attention to the process that seems like a little bit of a nuanced issue, right? You're just taking some wood chips and recycling them, they said, on whatever street in Springfield or wherever in Greenfield. And it was so much more than that. And so I'm happy to support this. And I'm most happy about the grassroots organizing that took place over all these years with Jesse and with so many others that have led us to a point where we have higher attention and higher resources paid, higher attention paid at higher levels to climate justice and to air quality. And so the purpose of this resolution is to ask the general court to take action to stop these regulations from going into place. I'm very, very happy and proud to support it with my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Whitfield.
Happy birthday, Michael Ann Busey.
Oh, happy birthday. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say I need that Netflix movie because I'm not as versed on, the history of this, but I do remember Councilor Fenton and I briefly talking about it a little bit. And I was like, wait, is this the one that we talked about before? Is back again? And so I just wanted to thank any colleague on here that has worked on this in the past, that has brought it up in committees, that have done your due diligence, that have went to the community meetings. I just want to thank all of you. And Mike, if you want to write that Netflix documentary, I'll be willing to watch it so I can learn that history that I don't know. I think that's a great idea, but I just didn't want to leave anyone out who's worked on this in the past and let you all know that it's great that you had this resilience and you just continue to fight it, because sometimes people give up over time or people forget, and you all have not forgotten. And so I just want to thank all of you who worked on this in the past for your commitment to continue fighting the good fight.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Letterman, close us out.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I really just wanted to thank everybody. We suspected when we brought this forward, we would see such comprehensive support for it. And I think it really shows when I said at the beginning that the days of rubber stamping these sorts of things are over. This is why, because of really the dedication of community members that our colleagues have brought up. Today is the late Michael Ann Busey's birthday, and I think that's appropriate to recognize Senator-elect Gomez. And also because of the caliber of elected official that serves on this body. And, with it being our final meeting of the year, it goes a long way to show our constituents that we are the watchdogs for the city of Springfield. And we got to start asking the question after 10 years, who is it that wants these sorts of developments built so badly, and why? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on approving this resolve?
On approving the resolve, Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown? Counselor Brown?
He might be having trouble with his internet.
Absent. Counselor Hurst?
Yes, the resolve is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is a motion to refer all unfinished business to the next legislative session.
Can we have a counselor make a motion to refer all unfinished business to the next legislative
moved.
session?
Second.
Motion has been made by Counselor Gomez, seconded by Counselor Davila. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on the motion?
Mike messed up. Yes.
Can we please acknowledge Counselor Brown as voting yes on the previous resolve, Madam Clerk,
Yes.
as well as unfinished business?
The motion to refer all unfinished business. Counselor Gomez?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman?
Yeah.
Yes. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes, the motion is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
The next item on the agenda is informal caucus to elect vice president of the city council for the 2021 legislative session.
Madam Clerk, I am going to step down. Counselor Gomez, Council Vice President Gomez, if you could take the helm, it would be greatly appreciated. And
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Colleagues, you want me to take over right now?
yes, please. And I will raise my hand in the queue, although I'm not 100% sure I can do it, but I would like
I got it. No problem, sir. All right, esteemed colleagues, thank you for joining us on this informal caucus. My name is President Adam Gomez for just the time being. I will be your acting parliamentarian during this first part of the process. I am humbled and thankful for this opportunity to preside over you. So, do I hear any nominations for vice president? Again, do I hear any nominations for vice president?
I'd like to make a motion, Councilor Gomez, to elect Councilor Tracy Whitfield as vice president. For those of you who serve with me, you know how vital Councilor Whitfield is to this council. She is someone who works tirelessly and has worked tirelessly from the time in which she was elected. She does it for all of the right reasons. She's not afraid to speak out on the difficult issues that matter most to the residents of Springfield. So I certainly appreciate her for that. Sometimes it can get pretty isolative. And so when you do have someone else side by side that is willing to throw punches with the best of them, it's always appreciated. Again, we noted earlier her work on gang violence, her work on gun violence. I think just yesterday or just this past weekend, she gave away stockings to over 200 young people in the city of Springfield. She just is vested in this community. She's vested in this city. She cares. and she is totally deserving to lead this council as I believe the first African-American vice president elected to this body. Councilor Walsh, you always make it very clear that we need more women on the council. And I would argue,
Absolutely.
I would argue that if we can, if we're able to elect women that, aspire to the heights of both yourself and Councilor Whitfield, this body will be doing well. And so with that being said, Mr. President, I nominate Councilor Tracy Whitfield to be the next vice president of the Springfield City Council.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Second it. Go women, women power.
Seconded by Cateri Walsh, I believe. Madam Clerk, can we please call the roll on approving the nomination for vice president?
On approving the nomination of Tracy Whitfield as vice president, Councilor Gomez. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Hurst.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy
Thank you,
Whitfield.
Councilor Hurst.
Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Curran.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Ramos.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Walsh.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Williams.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Allen.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Letterman.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Edwards.
Tracy Whitfield.
Tracy Whitfield. Councilor Brown.
I believe I seconded, of course, Tracy Whitfield. It wasn't Cateri, it was Councilor Brown.
I overruled you.
All these gifts myself.
Councilor Brown, yes. Tracy Whitfield.
You can
Councilor
always overrule me, Bob.
We have Councilor Gomez, Madam Clerk.
Councilor Gomez.
Tracy Whitfield. And with that being said, I want to.
Mr. President, if I just clear the record, my vote was intended for Tracy Whitfield. I did say yes, meaning Tracy Whitfield.
Madam, oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Clerk, Madam.
Thank you, Councilor Davila.
Thank you,
Madam
Madam
Clerk, if you can please make sure that his vote is clearly for Tracy Whitfield. First, in turn, before I switch over and give it back to the president, I just want to say this is going to be the last time that I present myself as, and the only time as the president for the last time being. I just want to say how humbled this opportunity has been to be able to be a part of this and sit here and stand at this podium. But I'm more proud of the moment that we see in front of us and electing the first woman, black woman to the vice presidency. And honestly, it's important for us to having so much testosterone around to be able to let women lead. So with that being said, I just want to say, Tracy, you're like a sister to me. We have grown so much over the time. I'm so happy that, me letting go of being the vice president and you becoming the vice president right now is one of the most honorable things that I've ever been a part of. So congratulations, Tracy. With all due respect, now I can call you my vice president. Thank you so much. Mr. President, you may, I am relinquishing my power back to you, and you are back into the driver's seat. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and best of luck for everyone else.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Madam Clerk, can you please call what I believe is the final item on the agenda for the evening?
The final item on the agenda is an informal caucus to elect a president of the City Council for the 2021 legislative session.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor, are there any nominations for president of the Springfield City Council? Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, thank you. It is it's an honor for me to officially nominate my dear friend, Councilor Marcus Williams, to be the next president of the Springfield City Council. Councilor Williams is a third-term council president. Third-term city councilor. He was born and raised in the city of Springfield, and he's a product of the Springfield public school system. In 2015, he became the youngest person of color ever elected to this body, and he has served us honorably, and it's been a privilege for me to serve alongside him. Since his election, he has accomplished, he has achieved many accomplishments, including spearheading the effort to bring Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer to the City of Springfield, which we all know he was responsible for, and we deserves all of the credit for. In addition, he worked very hard to bring a food truck ordinance to the City of Springfield, and has been a very vocal advocate for police reform in our city, in addition to serving as a chairman of maintenance and development, where he has worked on some very important issues, including my favorite, private ways, and currently working on a parking ban, simplifying the parking ban in the City of Springfield. More importantly, Mr. President, I don't think anybody can argue that Councilor Williams has possesses the integrity and the demeanor necessary to handle such a responsibility. He takes a cordial and empathetic approach to governing, and in fact, his slogan and his theme in his first campaign for public office was "People before politics," and I don't think that there's any doubt that he's demonstrated that. As a former president, I know what it takes to hold that gavel. I had the honor and privilege of nominating you 2 years ago and handing over the gavel to you. And you've done an excellent job, Mr. President. And now it's my privilege to nominate our next president, Marcus Williams. I have no doubt that he will be an excellent leader for this body. And it's my privilege to officially nominate the gentleman for Ward 5, Councilor Marcus Williams, to be the 34th president of the Springfield City Council.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Is there a second to that nomination?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Whitfield. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll? Councilor Letterman. I see your hand is
Mr.
raised.
President, I seek recognition to make a nomination.
So we will entertain this nomination, and then after this nomination, if there is another nomination, then we can entertain it at that time.
Mr. President, point of order. It might be appropriate for the clerk or yourself as the presiding officer to state the format for which you hope to hold this election. Normally, we haven't had multiple nominees for the council presidency, and while I'm certainly believe and expect that we will reach a conclusion tonight, I think that because our rules are silent, we do defer to Robert's Rules of Order, and I think there may be some significant confusion among members of the body as to what process we're following. So I would appreciate it if the clerk yourself, Mr. President, could let us know exactly what rules we're going to be observing this evening.
Absolutely. And to your point, our rules are silent. And when our rules are silent, then Robert's rules does kick in. My interpretation of Robert's rules is that we nominate an individual similar to past practice. We second that nomination and then we vote. And so if Councilor Williams is nominated and that is properly seconded, which it has been, then we will have a vote. And if there are other nominations after that time, then we will vote on those nominations in the same format. And if there are 7 individuals supporting whoever is nominated, then that will be the next president of the City Council.
Mr. President, if I might. So what would be the appropriate votes, and with all due respect to our dear friend and colleague, Councilor Williams, who I certainly believe as would any member of this illustrious body, but what would be the appropriate votes to offer on a motion of this nature? Because normally we would hold a caucus and we would state the name of the person for whom we would like to be the next president.
That's exactly what you'll do. You'll state the name of who you would like to be the next president. And if it's not Councilor Williams, then you will not vote for Councilor Williams. Very similar to what we just did for Councilor Whitfield. The process is not changing. It's not any different.
Mr. President, but the nomination has simply just been made by a member of the body. I mean, my understanding is that nominations are not closed. Robert's Rules of Order state that nominations cannot close if a member of the body would like to make a nomination. So I think that at this time, it would be appropriate for all the nominations to be made and for people to be able to cast the vote for the individual they would like to nominate for in this round.
I certainly understand your opinion, Councilor Letterman, and that is not the opinion I share. So with that said, I think I'm the individual who can interpret the rules. And I believe, as I've read Robert's rules a number of times leading up to this point, that is how I interpreted it. Councilor Walsh.
Well, you know, this is an unusual situation, but I do know a little bit about the rules because I was the chairman of the Rules Committee, and I believe that the final interpretation goes to the council president, so that I would concur with your decision.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Allen. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just pretty much agree with Councilor Letterman as far as the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. I think I agree with Councilor Letterman's approach, but I would like you to state what your approach is.
My approach is what we just followed, and that is you nominate, you get a second. If you get a second, then we vote to see whether you have 7. If you don't have 7, then you will not be the next president. Then someone else will make a nomination, and if they get 7, they will be the next president. In my opinion, unless you have 7, it doesn't matter what order you go in. If you have 7, you're the next president. Doesn't matter whether you're first, second, third, or fourth.
What if someone wants to nominate another person who has been seeking that office?
Then if Councilor Williams does not get the votes, then you will be able to nominate another person at that time. If Councilor Williams does get the votes, then he will be the next president of the city council.
So it never creates a situation where actually 2 candidates are on the ballot at any one time.
I don't quite understand. If we get 7, if the person who is nominated gets 7, then it's a foregone conclusion as to who the president is. And so I don't quite understand, even if you had 2 people or 3 people, you have to get 7. And so the way in which I interpret the rules is that you nominate someone, and that individual, if they get 7, and if they're properly seconded, then they will be the next president of the city council. And everybody will have a turn, especially if you have 7.
I understand your approach. I'm just saying that it wasn't stated at the beginning of the whole thing. And if there was someone else to be nominated, it's only random that they didn't get nominated in time to be first.
I think if they have 7, it doesn't matter, Councilor Allen, based off of my math. If they have 7, then they're going to be the next president. It's just that simple. I mean, they need 7. And so whether they're nominated first or third, if they have 7, then they will be the next city council president. Councilor Ramos. Councilor Ramos.
President, I do have a statement. I'm going to defer to the next person. I still need 1 more minute.
Okay. Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a point of clarification. So Councilor Williams has the nomination right now. So if folks are not going to select him, do they just be quiet when they're called on the roll?
So they can either say no, they can either say present, or they can say his name. And I think typically what we've done
Present,
is,
what does present mean? Present?
present means that you are present, but it does not mean a vote casted in favor of Councilor Williams.
Like Councilor Davila did at first, but then switched it?
Yes.
Kinda? Okay.
Yes, kind of. Councilor Brown.
Yes. So maybe I don't understand, but from what I read, it says that Marcus Williams, Melvin Edwards, and yourself is trying to run for presidency. Why so you're saying we got to go through the process of saying Marcus, yay, 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 and then you, yay, 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 and then Melvin? That makes no sense to me. I believe what Jesse is saying really makes more sense as far as what we should be doing. Unless I'm wrong. I mean, I believe that you're trying to run and Melvin's trying to run and Marcus trying to run.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate your perspective. And I think what I'll do at this point in time is I will defer to the clerk as well as Attorney Moore to weigh in to help clarify. I think at the moment, we don't know who's running for president other than Councilor Williams, who has been nominated. And I would just reiterate that if Councilor Williams receives 7 votes, then he will be the next president of the city council. But I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, if you can please weigh in as to your understanding, and then we can also defer to Attorney Moore, who I think also is on the call.
So I was kicked out of the Zoom. My phone went completely black. I didn't hear either side of the arguments. I'm not certain what's going on. So can you refresh? Can you let me know what's happening, counselors?
I can. So there is a difference of opinion from some counselors as to how the election will take place. I've stated that my interpretation of the rules is that we will nominate a particular counselor, or a counselor will be nominated. They will be properly seconded. And then once they are seconded, we will have a vote on that particular counselor. There are others that are of the opinion that they, I believe, would like to see all individuals nominated and voted all at once. And so I made the decision, my interpretation of the rules based off of what I've read is that we would go counselor by counselor, and if those counselors get 7 votes, then they would be the next president. So that is where we're at right now. I will certainly defer to you, and I know I believe Attorney Moore is on the call, and so he also can have an opportunity once you've presented how you think this should work.
So for the nomination process, we've never had it that there was more than one counselor being nominated. So I'm not 100% sure how this should work. I know that as far as the election goes, counselors vote until there's someone elected. But for nominations, I'm not certain if it should be one counselor nominated and then a vote is taken, which is my first inclination, or if it should be all the nominations are given and then the vote is taken. So I will defer to Attorney Moore to see if he has more information on the nominations, but I definitely know how the election should go. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
Attorney Moore.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think in cases like these where you have a dispute over what the interpretation of the rule would be, we fall back upon what Councilor Walsh referred to as the president's kind of prerogative. the person presiding over the proceeding can make a rule or can make a determination what they think the rule, what the rule means, and they can implement it. I don't think the president's interpretation is unreasonable. So, I mean, if there are disagreement about what that means, you can sort of stand on the disagreement. I'm at this point, if you look at Robert's Rules of Order, there's a number of ways to do nominations. Our bylaws are silent, so it is subject to interpretation about, the way we want to do nominations, and the way that the president is saying that he's interpreting the rule is, essentially the right way to proceed if that's what the body chooses. I'm not sure there's anything within Roberts that directly contradicts what he's saying. There are references within certain, types of nomination procedures that deal with like motions to close, for example. That's often something that's discussed, but a motion to close isn't something that's really used very often, if ever, and if there are nominations still left to be made, then motion to close really isn't even appropriate under the rules. So there's a number of things that go into this. And, at this point, I think, you stand on what the council's, rules state, which is the president has the decision to make the interpretation. And I'm going to stick with that.
Thank you, Attorney Moore, Councilor Letterman, followed by Councilor Fenton, and Councilor Ramos. And then at some point in time, we need to move to a vote. Attorney, I'm
Attorney sorry, Davis? Can I please? Yes.
I'm sorry?
I have Robert, can I speak? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So I completely concur with Attorney Moore. I have found a part of Robert's rules that discusses nominations and elections. And one portion of it states that the different names being repeated by the chair as they are made, this is regarding nominations. The nomination is like a motion to fill a blank. The different names being repeated by the chair as they are made, and then the vote is taken on each in the order in which they were nominated until one is elected.
Thank you.
Which coincides with your interpretation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Ramos, I'm sorry. Let me just make sure I'm at the top here. Councilor Ramos, followed by Councilor Davila.
Mr. President, you would recognize me previously.
Did I recognize you? Maybe I put your hand down.
I asked that to be skipped earlier. I'll defer.
Understood. We'll go Councilor Letterman and then Councilor Ramos, and we'll follow up with Councilor Davila.
Mr. President, I'm interested in hearing what Councilor Ramos has to say, but I have to say the clerk is correct that there are several methods prescribed in Robert's Rules of Order about how different elections can be held. But with that said, Robert's Rules of Orders in Chapter 66A clearly states that nominations are open as long as somebody wants to make a nomination. Now, if we were perhaps nominating by committee, a formal nomination being made of Councilor Williams would be appropriate. But the fact that Councilor Ramos simply raised his hand sooner than me to make that nomination, I believe it has no bearing on the fact that nominations are still open. So Mr. President, it is my intent to appeal the ruling of the chair. Councilor Walsh is correct that the chair can rule, but the ruling of the chair is not set if the body appeals it. And I would further subscribe that Robert's Rules allows us to establish any order we would like for holding an election in the absence of it being described in our rules. And so I will have a motion following the appeal if it is successful to allow for it to take place in a different way. And so I'll yield to Councilor Ramos, but I am going to make a point of order to appeal the ruling of the chair.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Davila. I'm sorry. Councilor Ramos.
Again, thank you, Mr. President. So I was also reviewing Chapter 66 of Robert's Rules, which refers to nominations and elections. There's a section in there that says that motions to close nominations are usually unnecessary because the nomination process simply continues until no one wishes to make further nominations. When the nomination stopped, the chair just declares nominations closed after making sure that no more nominations are forthcoming. Customarily, although it is not required, the chair accomplishes this by calling 3 times for more nominations. I do remember in the past that has been practiced where the presiding counselor would call as to whether or not there are any more nominations after the first nomination is made. And I do remember that very vividly because it was one year where I wondered whether or not there were going to be more nominations after my name was nominated. And in addition to that, I've been in other meetings in other boards where that has been the practice. And to Councilor Letterman's point, I believe it's Rule 9B in our rules and procedures that allows the council to overrule or to question the president's interpretation. So if he wants to make that motion, I'll certainly support it.
Sounds good. Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have to say it's my first time voting, and it seems like I came in at a quite a dynamic time, if I may say, to use some sort of a descriptive word. But Mr. President, 2 quick points. One, I do recall, and I hear the other councilors' interpretation. By no means am I no expert in Robert's rules, but I do believe we need to be consistent, sir. If I recall correctly, several times throughout the year, the believe that it was Attorney Picula say that in absence of interpretation, the president, as a parliamentarian, has the final decision making, and the decision of the president sticks. So with that being said, I do remind the body that we still have open nominations, and I don't know what's appropriate. We need to move forward. So if there's room here for me to move the questions or close nominations, I don't know exactly what the proper language it is. I will do so, sir.
So we will hear from Councilor Brown, Councilor Fenton, and Councilor Whitfield, who all have their hands raised in the queue. And then I will continue to stand as the parliamentarian by how it is that I interpret the rules. And if folks want to overrule that, you can do so by a 2/3 vote of the council. And so it certainly can be the will of the body. So Councilor Brown, Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Fenton.
Yes, I would just once again say that I do fully support Councilor Letterman in his approach. And as far as Robert's rule, there is a way, if I'm correct, Madam Clerk, where we can vote as a body to just do it the way that we want to as a consensus. Am I correct?
Councilor, I'm sorry, Attorney Davis.
Yes, you're correct.
And I would just urge my colleagues that that is how we should do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Fenton, followed by Councilor Whitfield, and then Councilor Edwards. At that point, we will vote to certainly not move forward with my interpretation, or to move forward with my interpretation. Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to point out that as a practical matter, I think the reason that historically we have said the name of the person being nominated is to avoid this very situation. If the intent was that we would just nominate one person and then vote on that person, we would just vote yes or no on a nomination. But in my 11 years, that's not how we've done it. We've said the name. And so I think that just leads to the common sense conclusion that if you're saying someone's name, it means you could say someone else's name. And I just wanted to add that to the discussion.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton, Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Edwards, and then we'll move to a vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to point out that in the past, I remember first joining the council after Tom Ash left, and there was something that we didn't know the rule on, and I believe Councilor Ramos was the president at the time, and we follow his interpretation of the rule because that's what we normally have done. And I think that because individuals want to change the process for whatever reason, we're diverting from what we have done in the past, what has been done. I remember it clearly because I didn't understand everything that was going on because I was the newest member of the council, but we definitely went by the interpretation of the president. And we also have done that, I think, as Councilor President Hurst has been the president, we went a couple times by the interpretation because I believe one time I got upset about it, but we still had to follow the president's interpretation. And I I don't think that we should divert for reasons that are unknown to me from what we have historically done. This is a new process for everyone, but why now would we want to change what we have done in the past and follow the ruling of the president now? So that's just, I don't understand it. It's baffling to me. I will not support the appeal by any means, and I won't be convinced to do so.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. And so what I'll do now is call on the individual councilors who haven't spoken, and then we will move to a vote. So Councilor Edwards, as well as Councilor Edwards, followed by Councilor Gomez.
Well, first of all, I want to just say that, and this is just my opinion, this has been an embarrassment. This is not the way a functional council should operate. We are statesmen of the city, and I don't expect that there will be everybody who will agree with what I'm saying, but I don't like what I'm hearing. I don't like this process. I'm not going to cast dispersions on my president or my colleagues whose opinion doesn't agree with any other counselor. If I have any regrets, it's just the stress that this process is caused by my candidacy, and to my colleagues, I apologize for the angst and the uncomfortableness of what my candidacy has presented to you. I really appreciate all of the kind words and comments that were made to me personally or through third parties. And for those of you who thought I was worthy to lead this council, I thank you. It was great for my ego. But when I got elected, I get elected from Ward 3. There's nobody, none of you can vote for me as a ward counselor. But I do appreciate your support, your advice, your counsel, your friendship. And at this time, I respectfully withdraw my name for consideration of president of the city council. And I wish whoever becomes the next council president, Godspeed, and you will have my friendship, my support. And I would hope that those who have voiced their support of me will use their own moral compass and integrity to choose who they think should win. But I don't like this process, and I don't like the fact that I have contributed to the dysfunction of my council in a public forum over something that is not as important as some people may think it is. In my opinion, the president of the city council is no more powerful than anybody else in the chamber. He gets to chair the meeting. He gets to step down anytime he wants to offer his opinion outside of the parliamentary procedures. But I take an oath not only to represent Ward 3, but I take an oath to represent the entire city. So whether you're in Indian Orchard, the North End, or 16 Acres, or any other part of the city, I will make decisions based on what is I believe to be the right thing for your constituents and for the taxpayers of the city of Springfield. So I respectfully withdraw my name from nomination. Thank you.
So there is Councilor Gomez. I'm sorry, I did not see your hand in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to first, I want to just acknowledge the candor and the professionalism of my colleague that just spoke. I really want to just put that in the front forward. Secondly, I want to respect the decision that he made, but I'll also lift him up and say that he has been a great leader on this council for many, many years, and he has been a good shoulder to lean on many of times. Lastly, my question was specific to just how we have operated during meetings when it comes to, and it's just the interpretation of, we understand how nominations come in, Mr. President, and maybe this is a question I don't want to ask particularly yourself, but Attorney Moore, is when we make a nomination, is that considered, or is that still presumptuous under the parliamentarian as a motion? So when we make them, and that would, I think, would clear it up, because then from there, after Robert's rule, what ends up happening, if it's considered a motion, then you cannot put a motion on top of a motion after it's been seconded, and you can only talk on the motion that has been seconded, and you have to, I think the terminology, what's the terminology? You have to disperse of the motion and then move on. And that's just my interpretation on how we move forward. So the nominations, if they are interpreted as that is considered a motion, respectfully, because of what the three, because of the individuals of who goes first, second, or third, which I completely agree with you, Mr. President. I believe that respectfully, you know, if it's interpreted that way as a motion, how we've always done business, and that the way we have conducted the vice presidency was, I opened up the meeting, I asked for a motion, I asked for the clerk to go to straight to roll call. Obviously, there was another person that that was nominated, or obviously we did. She had unanimous support. So, but for the most part, in my mind, the interpretation of the nomination. But with that being said, I just, you know, obviously I wish I would have spoken before my colleague did, but that was my question, is when we make a nomination, the interpretation is that it's a motion and it's seconded, just like any other motion. Because when the nomination comes, it becomes seconded. And once it becomes seconded, you have to disperse of the motion before you take another motion, which granted, I understand. But that's all I wanted to add to that conversation. No more jazz and no more fluff. And that was it, just particularly that. Thank you, Mr. President.
So
Attorney Moore.
So we still have a motion on the floor that has a nomination on the floor that has been seconded by
President, point of order. My point of order still stands. I appealed the ruling of the chair. It is my right to appeal the ruling of the chair, and it is because I respect this institution so much that I am appealing the ruling of the chair. Councilor Ramos's motion was to nominate. It was not to close nominations. Robert's rule states nominations do not even need to be seconded. I make a motion to appeal the ruling.
Councilor Letterman, we're going to give you your time. I got you. Don't worry about it. We're going to give you your time, and we'll allow, if folks want to, if folks want to decide against what it is that I say, then they can vote against it. And so I will definitely entertain your motion before we vote on the nomination. Absolutely. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, Councilor Edwards is a legend. He is one of the people who's mentored and developed all of us. He is the token of Black excellence. The only reason I didn't support him as a president is just because of certain reasons. For him to bow out, I would want to take a vote to let him not do it. This is a disgrace. I'm disappointed. He is an icon. I'm really disappointed. And I agree once again with my colleague, Councilor Letterman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. So it sounds like there is before we take the nomination and before we interpret the rules the way in which I see it, it sounds like you have a motion, Councilor Letterman. Is that accurate? And if so, you can make it at this time.
The motion, Mr. President, is simply to appeal the ruling of the chair. I believe that the process that should be followed according to Robert's rule is that each councilor who wishes to be nominated should be allowed to be nominated. The taxpayers deserve that, in my estimation. I think the rules say that. I commend Councilor Edwards. We all know Councilor Edwards is a class act. And let me restate, great respect and appreciation for my dear friend and colleague, Councilor Williams. And as I said again, every member of this body would make a great president, but I believe every member of this body should have an opportunity to be nominated. And that is why I am appealing the ruling of the chair.
So there's an appeal by Councilor Letterman of the ruling of the chair. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Seconded by Councilor Brown. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll? This requires a 2/3 roll call vote for passage.
And the clerk state yes.
A yes vote means that you disagree with my interpretation of the ruling.
A quick point of order, Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, Councilor Donovan.
My head is spinning a little bit here, sir. Just to be clear, because it's a dynamic time. So I understand my beloved and esteemed colleague, Councilor Letterman, just made an appeal, but don't we technically still have a motion open, sir? Do we have to dispose that motion before we do this?
No, he's appealing my interpretation of the rules. And so we can't proceed with my interpretation of the rules until we resolve this issue. And so so if you vote yes, then you disagree with my interpretation of the rules. A no vote means that you agree with my interpretation of the rules, and we'll move forward with the nomination of Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So I just want to make it clear, because I don't want to be more difficult. I apologize for jumping in, Mr. President. So a no vote is that I disagree. A yes vote is that I agree with Councilor Letterman.
A yes vote is that you agree with Councilor Letterman. Yes.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, sir.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
On the motion to overturn the chair's ruling, a yes vote means you agree with Councilor Letterman. A no vote means you agree with Councilor Hurst's interpretation. Councilor Gomez.
No.
No. Councilor Whitfield.
No.
No. Councilor Davila.
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, just to clarify again, a yes vote means I agree with Councilor Letterman, no vote, Councilor Hurst, correct?
Correct.
Okay, no.
No. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
No.
No. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
No.
No. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Present.
Councilor Edwards, a yes vote means that you interpret the rule as Councilor Letterman said. A no vote means you interpret it as Councilor Hurst has said. Would you like to vote yes or no?
Present.
Present. And Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst?
No, the motion fails. There has been a nomination made by Councilor Williams. By Councilor Ramos, seconded by Councilor Brown to nominate Councilor Williams. Councilor Walsh on the motion.
I second it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Whitfield seconded.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just wanted to, I just want to say that this is very unusual, and I think I can speak to it because I've probably voted for more presidents than any of you. It's very unusual that we find ourselves in this situation at this point in time where someone is not elected on the first vote. It's also very unusual that we would be doing this on Zoom because, you know, it is an informal caucus of the city council. It is one of the votes that the council takes that's just about them. It really has nothing to do with any other issues or anything like that. It's our body, who we want to be our leader. And we find ourselves in a COVID situation, voting for the next president, whoever that might be. But I'm very happy that the support is there, not so much for Justin, but the support is there that the council president is the last word. So let the chips fall where they may. Everybody's a good candidate.
And I'll just echo that. I just think that is, I think everything that played out is exactly how it's supposed to play out. And I think we're in a really good position as a council. I think we have a disagreement over the rules, and I think Councilor Letterman's motion was appropriate. And I agree with Councilor Walsh. You let the chips fall where they may, and I think this body has always found a way to lead and to lead together. So with that being said, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on Councilor Williams' nomination?
Just to be clear, Councilor Hurst, this is a vote for Councilor Williams to be voted as president of the.
This is a vote for Councilor Williams to be voted as the president. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Gomez.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Whitfield.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Davila.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Fenton.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Karen.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Ramos.
It's Williams.
Councilor Walsh.
You're muted, Councilor Walsh.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Williams.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Allen.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Letterman.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Edwards.
Marcus Williams.
Councilor Brown.
Let's get it. Marcus Williams.
Councilor Hurst.
Marcus Williams. Congratulations. Councilor Williams will be the next president of the Springfield City Council. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before the council?
How do we clap on this?
Yeah, I think you can unanimously.
Yeah, so much. It really means a lot to me. And I don't want to cut in, but do I have time for a few words, Councilor?
Yeah, absolutely. The floor is yours, Councilor.
I really appreciate that. I want to thank Councilor Ramos for your both kind and encouraging words to start us off. And I really want to recognize the time we are in, as it has certainly impacted the way we conduct business and simply have to live. As this pandemic has ripped through the country, we have seen also the best in those that we serve. So I have to say to the frontline workers that are battling this virus head on, because without you, things would be worse, and Lord only knows how much. I would also be remiss if I also did not say that during this pandemic, Council President Hurst, I have certainly appreciated your leadership and efforts to keep business moving, despite all that is going on outside and sometimes even in our own homes. I truly believe you should be commended for the job that you've done this year, as well as the prior year. So please take my thank you and job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am blessed to have witnessed 3 presidencies in my tenure, and with each, I gained perspective and insight in how parliamentarian facilitates meetings, resolves issues, and works across aisles, including our own, to advance the quality of life for Springfield residents. That experience would be impossible if I did not see 3 fine examples. So outside of Councilor Hurst, of course, Councilor Fenton and Councilor Ramos, I thank you for also stepping up and being the president we needed at that respective time. When I was an undergrad at BC, and I promise I'm almost done, one of our mantras was to be the change you wish to see in the world. And with every decision and action, I've tried my best to model that. I will also do that as your president, leading with integrity first and foremost. Despite how this evening has gone, it has shown me two things. The first being that 2020 has been very unpredictable, as this election has shown. And number two, that I am more committed than ever to leading this council as the city heals. While we may know that support may have fallen with other candidates tonight, there will certainly be a time when we all look past this to continue working together as a unit, as we're duly elected to by our constituents. So with that, I am certainly looking forward to 2021, just as much as I'm sure you are as well. And I want to thank you for.
The thing is, I agree that Justin had the right to do what he did.
No. Councilor Edwards, you're not muted.
You want to mute.
Sorry, I just wanted to end with thank you for the love that you've shown Springfield, all of my colleagues, and thank you for the opportunity to be your president. So God bless you. Thank you.
Councilor Hurst.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Congratulations. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before the council?
Councilor Hurst, I just want to briefly, because I didn't get a chance to speak. I didn't write anything. It's not going to be a long speech. I'll do that at the formal meeting, but I just want to say thank you to all my colleagues. You guys have worked extremely hard through this year of COVID. We will never forget this year of COVID. It's a lot. We do a lot of Zooming. We do a lot of subcommittee meetings on Zoom, and I know it's exhausting, but I just wanted to say thank you all for all of your hard work. I love that we can disagree on issues, but still get the work done for the community. Definitely no hard feelings. We just all are smart and opinionated, and what we consider right in our heart is right to us. And I just respect all of you for all of your opinions and all of the hard work that you do. And I look forward to supporting our new president, Marcus Williams, in any way that I can. But I have to say to our current president, Justin Hurst, you really created remote council meetings for Springfield City Council.
Did a good job.
And if I was the president at a time of COVID, I probably would have gave the seat up to the vice president, because I don't know how I would have managed all the things that you managed and put the structure together. And so I think, like Catering said, let the chips fall where they may. Well, they fell exactly where they were supposed to fall when you led this council during the year of COVID. And so thank you for the work that you've done. And again, council, thank you for everything that you guys do on a daily basis. We are stronger together. We got to remain together. And finally, I just want to say to Councilor Edwards, that was a commendable act that you did. I truly respect you.
Classy.
I mean, very, very classy. You're always classy. You're an example of class. I don't know what other word to use right now. Class is all that comes to my mind, but I love you for what you did, what you said, and for your emotion and your passion, and just want to do the right thing and just remain together. Like, you always are the glue that keeps us together. So thank you for that, for what you did tonight. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Walsh.
Yes, I'd like to take the opportunity to wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday, and to say that, so many of the things with COVID are very different. For example, Marcus, are you going to have your city president-elect party?
Well, I got your question. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about it just a little bit. I
just Uber Eats, all of us, send us a Uber Eats.
I was either thinking maybe another Christmas present, but I certainly want the surge to go down and the vaccinations to be more widely dispersed. But I really want to plan on having something, if not the late spring, maybe the summer sometime. So we would certainly do something, and it will be on me. So yes.
Yes. Some tradition should not die.
I agree.
I would agree. We're going to hold you to it, Councilor. Councilor Fenton.
Yeah, and new Mr. President Williams, if you're gonna have that party, be very cautious about inviting your uncle, because he has a propensity on purpose and a history of intentionally driving up the bill at some of the. I can tell him that I said that because I spent an awful lot of money. Okay.
Listen, I understand. Trust me.
He better be there. He better be there because we all had to pay for him.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna conclude with
Merry
Councilor
Christmas,
Brown.
everybody.
Councilor Brown, take us home and then we gotta move because my computer is getting ready to die and I don't have my cord. So please bring us home.
I want to thank,
and adjourn.
always want to thank my sister Tracy. A lot of times you guys will see us fight. You don't know me as Shalon. She's like a Shalon to me. Nobody else but a fight with her because we love each other. That's my sister. She's one of the hardest working sisters that I know. I love her. You know I love you, right, Tracy? You know I love you. And Marcus, you know, you my brother. Congratulations. And I gotta end it. You know, Melvin, I already told you how I feel about you, but Mother Walsh, you are such a bully now. Why do you bully me so much? You just tell me to shut up all the time.
I never say shut up.
You are such a
No.
bully in your age now.
No, I never say shut up.
All
No,
right.
you don't say shut up, but you tell me it's your way now. So I just shut up. Put it that way.
All right, everybody have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and celebrate safely.
Merry
Thank
Christmas,
you.
everyone.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
God bless you and your
Congratulations
family.
again.
Good night. Merry Christmas.
Holidays, happy
Love you
holidays.
guys. Love you guys.
Merry
Holidays.
Christmas.